What's lacking in those other systems is that I used to always, create the core values, mission statement, and then there was no real buy-in from the team. So when we open book management sort of flips that on its head and involves everyone in the process of building the company that as they see it, so that they're just way more invested. And I really do believe that our team now thinks and acts like owners. They understand how their actions impact the success of the company, and they understand that in order to get what they want, they're going to need to focus on what owners focus on, which is creating a healthy and successful company.
All right, we are back with the $1 Million Agency. Our next guest is my friend Nick Kringas. Nick himself runs a big agency, has a lot of knowledge in the financial space as well. So I'm excited to welcome you to the show, Nick. How you doing, man?
Good, Pat. How are you?
Good, man. Good. So, Nick, thank you so much for joining us today. I remember we met at I think SEO Rockstars in Boston maybe about a year ago, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So let's just get to know Nick. Who's Nick? What's your experience? What led you to where you are now? And what do you have going on in your agency?
Big question. I was born. No, I'm just kidding. So in a former life, I owned a restaurant with my family, and I decided one day that was no longer the life I wanted to be leading. I had a wife and 2 kids at the time, and so we had a new restaurant that we opened with new partners at the time, and it was just a disaster. So when I got out of that deal, I decided not to go back to the original location with my brother, my mother, and my father. I had taught myself SEO for the restaurant, basically to try to rank the restaurant. I was successful in doing that. We ranked for terms like Greek restaurant, like nationally, which was wild. But just using kind of, different things that I was testing out in my basement at the time. I bought a course.
What year was this?
2010 was when I first learned about SEO and kind of self-taught, bought a course, got into it. And my wife told me at the time, she was like, I've never seen you so obsessed and passionate about anything before, and just kind of stay up all night trying to figure things out, trying to rank in Google. So I learned that skill at the restaurant. In 2011, when I decided to leave the restaurant, I had this skill, and I approached our restaurant attorney at the time, she helped us get our liquor licenses for the various locations, and she became my first client, and it was $250 a month, and she's still with us today. So that's
wow. Yeah, it's hard to lose a client paying you $250 a month for.
Yeah, I don't do much for it. But it was super successful for her right out of the gate. She'd have people calling her every day about helping them get a liquor license. So it was successful. I knew that law was a lucrative niche, that they pay a lot for the same traffic in Google Ads. So I decided to focus on law firms. I called different agencies at the time that were that maybe needed some help with their SEO and their back end, like ranking their clients. And I met my partner about a year later after working with him and helping him rank his few clients that he had. He was just getting started as well. He wanted to focus on sales, and he didn't want to do any of the SEO work. So it was a perfect partnership at the time. And so we decided to partner up, and we formed Apricotlaw. We incorporated at the end of 2013. So I guess it's almost 11 years now. And I bought my partner out almost 3 years ago now, at the beginning of 2022. So I've been the sole owner ever since.
It sounds like you guys are focused solely on attorneys then.
Yeah, we have maybe 1 or 2 clients that come to us from referral that are not attorneys, but yes, we are primarily attorney focused. In the different niches, personal injury is our biggest niche, criminal defense, family law, bankruptcy. Those are probably the four big ones. I might be missing one, but 4 or 5 different practice areas that we focus on.
Yeah. And approximately, just to kind of give listeners some context for the size of your agency, approximately how many clients do you guys have?
We have about 25 clients. Our best year ever was 2019, and we had almost 40 clients. Ever since COVID, we've contracted for about 2 years there. Right around the time I was buying my partner out, so we've contracted in terms of revenue at one point, but now we're back on track. And so yeah, we have about 25 clients.
Okay. Obviously, the attorneys, this is a very competitive space, and for us to be able to perform in a competitive space, we have to charge more money, right? There's more stuff that we're doing. I'd love to get an idea of like, what would an average client pay a marketing agency that's kind of in the attorney space?
That's a good question. Our average client is about 5,000 a month.
Okay.
So 60,000 a year. A lot of them have been with us forever, or for a long time, for years. I'll also say that varies pretty dramatically. We have one client paying us 25,000 a month. That's probably our biggest client. Another one over 20,000 a month. And then a couple at 10,000, a couple at 3,000. We tested going lower with like a very introductory offer where we just provide like a couple of links and just maintenance at like 1,000 a month. But those clients never seem to work out. They just seem really demanding for the money. So the team kind of gets fed up with them, and we don't have those clients anymore. So I think the lowest is 2,500 right now, and the highest is 25,000.
Yeah, that's great. So what are some of the services that you guys provide to these clients?
Search marketing, essentially. So anything from web design to search marketing. And at the bottom line is, if we're providing leads and cases, clients for these attorneys, they're going to stick around. 1 or 2 cases for a personal injury guy could pay for our services for 10 years. So we develop the site, and then we rank it in Google Maps, and then we make sure that the traffic is converting. So that goes towards conversion rate optimization, making sure that the website doesn't have any errors, so like technical SEO, making sure that it's loading quickly. So everything from design to traffic to conversion is what we handle for these clients on an exclusive basis, by the way. So we don't take multiple clients in a practice area and in a location.
Right. So if there's a divorce attorney that's in Boston, but then there's also a bankruptcy attorney, then like, hey, it's okay. You guys aren't really competing against each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Nick, I think you're located in the Northeast. Are you in Boston? Where are you at?
No, I'm in New York, Westchester County, just outside of the city. And our team's all remote, but yeah.
I've got a lot of questions to unpack here. First of all, like being in this competitive landscape for personal injury, maybe perhaps one of the most competitive niches that exists in this SEO space. How are you guys able to get results for your clients with it being so competitive?
Oof. It's a really good question. I think the team has a lot to do with it. I think that whenever we try to be very strict and formal around like SOPs and like, this is exactly what you need to do, that didn't seem to work all that well, even though like the controlling side of me and of owners wants to say like, this is your job, you need to do this job. And SEO doesn't really work that way because it's so ever changing. So I would say number one is our people are really in their unique ability. They're doing what they love to do, that they love to, and our core value is learning. So they love to take courses, test things out, see what's working today. So yeah, that's number one, is people and having a learning mentality. I think that any success that we've ever had for a client has come directly from implementing some learning that we've just like a training that we've just taken or a conference that we've just gone to, and because it changes so much that if you're not up to date with things, that you really just get left behind.
Yeah, they stay on the cutting edge. How do you guys facilitate the learning for them, and like what are you consciously doing to try to encourage it within the company?
Yeah, I wish it was more formal, but I like to let our team kind of dictate. First of all, they have to be the right people, and they have to have the core values of like that they're always learning, wanting to learn new things, try out and test new things. So without that, it wouldn't be possible. But normally, like I'll recommend a course, or I'll forward an email about a course. That's one way, or they'll come to me and say like, "Hey, I think we should take this course." And usually, if it's something reasonable and it's within our budget for that month, we'll say let's do it. We don't have any kind of challenge or tracking around it, unfortunately, but we do have a line item on our scoreboard around training and education. So we're making sure that we're spending money to put back into our folks.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure that feels amazing when the team comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to learn this," and that's
Yeah,
like, you've got the right person on your team if they're pursuing outside information to try to be better at their job. That's got to be
100%.
nice. Yeah,
The best feeling is having like just knowing that they want to learn and they get excited about learning. Like if I recommend the course and the guy's like, all right, I'll take it. And that's like something different than like, somebody saying like, this is an awesome opportunity and they're really excited about it. And you could see that they're doing the work on their time, not on their own time, of course, it's during working hours, but that they're actually following through with it. If you're recommending courses and then, spending money on it and the person never even opens it or doesn't follow through with it, that's like, maybe you don't have the right person. But yeah, the best feeling is that they're learning, excited about learning, and it creates like motivation and fun around in the team.
I get really excited. I'm passionate about this. I want to do. If I had more time, I would read more and study more and like learn more things. And it can be frustrating when you're dealing with these kind of like, there's people that are on your team, and I've had these people on my team in the past where they're like, yeah, they have no excitement. They have no enthusiasm towards this. One of our core values is the growth mindset, similar to yours. And then we also have energetic positivity. So I want that to be who we are. One of my favorite words in the English language is the word milk toast. Have you ever heard that word?
No.
So you think about like what milk and toast would like, what would that be? It would be this like soggy piece of bread it's like, well, it's spelled a little bit different, but this is somebody who is like ineffective and just like really like feeble and weak and just, kind of like a real passive person.
Yeah.
And so the combination of like it being that word for that is why it's one of my favorites, but it's what I try to 100% avoid in my companies is like, I don't want these freaking milk toasts in here that are just like weighing us down. And cause it's not only that attitude can be contagious where, and the opposite can be contagious too. If like the people are going after it.
1000%. Yeah, I always say like, and just from experience, not that I say it, but the way I look at it is you're hiring based on core values so that you create an environment, that you want to create. Is you can't teach those things, right? You're going to, of course, I think I used to make a mistake in the past of like hiring based on skills and then not really thinking about those core values or their personality or, if they're milk toast, like you said, but
Yeah.
until later on, you're like, geez, I didn't want this type of person, even though they're doing a good job. I think now what I do is I look for people that bring fun and excitement and energy, and they're just motivated people. And that has created like such a different environment. And if you have those type of people, the skills usually come, like they're willing to learn and they will learn. I mean, people are smart. So I'd like to hire for that first now, and being really conscious about the team that we're building and the people that we're bringing on and the energy that they bring to the team, so that they're just uplifting it and we're upgrading the energy each time.
Yeah, 100%. They say you don't build the company, you build the team, and then the team builds the company, right? So
Yeah.
it's huge to get the right people on the bus. Um, I think when I started my company, which was around the same year, like 2013, I think is when we incorporated our agency, I was reading business books and I was and trying to level up. And I glazed over a lot of important concepts that kind of like swung back around, 8 years later, 10 years later, where it's like, oh, the core values. Like you've got to have your mission statement and this, and that just seemed like some like almost like bureaucratic overhead that I didn't want to deal with. And just like you, we know our core values now. We're we really operate based on those. And that has driven the ship in a lot better direction. It sounds like you might be running EOS. Is that a part of what you guys do, Nick?
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about that when you were talking about this. I have run EOS and scaling up, more so scaling up than EOS. But I always found that those two were lacking something. And we can get into it a little bit. So I found the Great Game of Business or open book management right around the time that I had heard about it before, but I didn't want to implement it with my partner when he was still here. But then when we bought him out, I decided to open up the books and make it an open book management company. So the difference and what's lacking in those other systems is that I used to always, create the core values, mission statement, and then there was no real buy-in from the team. Like, it was my vision, my goals, not their goals. So when we open book management sort of flips that on its head and involves everyone in the process of building the company that as they see it, so that they're just way more invested and they think and act like owners, believe it or not, which sounds like something not attainable, but I really do believe that our team now thinks and acts like owners. They understand how their actions impact the success of the company, and they understand that in order to get what they want, which is job security, pay time off, equipment, they're going to need to focus on what owners focus on, which is creating a healthy and successful company.
The synergy when you get everybody kind of swimming in the same direction, and I think we almost get like lulled to sleep where we get comfortable with the way things are, and then we don't realize how that's different from like a agency that's very productive or any business that's very productive and how it could be. And once you've seen how it could be,
Mm-hmm.
a new bar has been set and everything below that is unacceptable. But until you see that, you're kind of like floating around and like dealing with these people that are maybe they got one foot in on your company, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like it's hard to build a great company. If you look at their great companies, they're made up of amazing people, right? They attract the best talents. So with that in mind, what's the process look like for locating some of these amazing people that you pulled into your team, Nick?
They've come from everywhere. We've used Indeed, and now just so that for context, we had maybe 22, 23 employees back in 2019, and now we have like W-2 employees, like actual employees. Now we have only 6 to 8, and the rest of the people are vendors, contractors, and people overseas. So we've found that just going to a more like on-demand workforce, from the book, like exponential organizations, by the way, is one trait of an exponential organization is they have an on-demand workforce, sort of like Uber, where you can go up and down as you need it and on demand. You're more agile. So we strategically look for first vendors, contractors before we bring on employees. And then if they're great, the people that are great through those channels have become employees. But hiring people to a full-time W-2 employee job, right away, especially, it caused a lot of friction in the past because it's really hard to get rid of toxic or bad people or not good fit people. So I'll say that we found a lot of our employees that were first people that were on a part-time or project basis that we've expanded and then brought them onto the team. We use different places. Indeed is probably the biggest one, and our best people have come from recommendation of people in the industry. Actually, our best person that I could think of right now, or can't say he's the best person, but he certainly embodies everything that we talked about, where he like brings a lot of energy. He's like always learning new things, just taking initiative. He came from somebody that I met at SEO Rockstars, actually. There's somebody that he,
Talk to the wrong person.
Yeah, he went to he's going to the gym with this person. This person was like working at a restaurant, and he like went to school to be a developer, and he wanted to work on online stuff, and perfect timing, perfect opportunity for him to get back into what he loved. And so, yeah, the two things are that technically is Indeed and through word of mouth referrals from other people in the industry that I network with. But the long answer is we don't like to bring them on right away as an employee.
Right. You've got them in this kind of like probationary scouting phase where it's like, hey, we're going to hope for the best. And then like we can test them out without really testing them out, and then bring them and make them be a part of our team if they embody what we're looking for.
100%. I think that was something that was so successful for us, is that we're testing them out on either probationary or project basis.
Yeah. So with 6 to 8 people, what does that team makeup look like? So there's obviously you. Are you functioning as both the CEO and COO now?
CFO and CEO. COO, no, not entirely, but I do have my hand in it, and I'm looking at like a fractional COO right now to get that off my plate, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, CEO and CFO is what I say.
So we've got that for you. And what are some of the other positions that are on your team right now? These other 6 to 8 people.
We have a development team that's completely, well, those 6 to 8 people, and then we'll go to like the outside of that circle. So the 6 to 8 people that we have are a lead SEO, somebody that we just made partner and 10% equity partner of the business is our client strategy, or head of client experience. We have somebody that's doing like initial sales calls, meaning like we call them like meet and greets, just like an appointment setter, so to speak. More than just an appointment setter, because they're qualifying the person and then handing them off to the same person that handles our clients, actually. So we have those 3. We have a content manager slash editor, a designer, but he's also more of like a conversion rate optimization, like UX designer.
Yeah.
And then we have a technical person that just does everything from like hosting to coding, different things, technical SEO. Yeah, things.
Okay.
And the lead SEO I said first. So that's the core. And then on the outside we have writers. These are all like vendors, contractors. We have writers, editors, a development team, and I think that's it.
Yeah, this is great. This gives us a real understanding of how you've kind of structured things. So you hit on something that I think a lot of smaller agencies don't spend a lot of time doing, but I know being in the competitive space, you can't afford to have traffic come to your site and then have it not convert.
Mm-hmm.
So the CRO, or conversion rate optimization, sounds like a big part of what you guys do. Can you give some like how this is structured, what you've learned, and what would be a starting spot for somebody that wants to really start to pay attention to this? And, maybe include what does it look like for you guys? How are you even tracking this between different sites?
That was our most recent hire, actually, was the UX designer. and he has a real passion for it. So um, I think you need somebody on the team if you're going to focus on CRO, which I think is invaluable, that has a passion for it. And that's been trained in some aspect. Like has a passion for, he's learning things about it, like what makes a good site, what converts, what doesn't, what makes it accessible and readable and what doesn't. So when we brought him on, he would come to us and he analyzed our site first and then has made a bunch of changes to our own site. But then he looked through our different clients and came to us with recommendations on a site-by-site basis. And we have a list of clients at any given time, like let's say 5 or 6 clients that we call priority. Like these are our priorities right now, our priority clients. It could be by budget, or it could be by, people that we need to perform for right now, or, they're not happy for some reason or whatever. So a list of 5 or 6.
If any of those Nick's clients are listening out here, just assume that you're one of the priority clients, right?
Yeah, you're all priority.
You're priority. You're in that 5 or 6.
Yeah, you're definitely in that 5 or 6. So that's the order that we had him look at these various sites and come back to us with recommendations. And it was just like a UX audit, so to speak, of what he thought should be changes or would improve the site. So that was number 1. Number 2, we had other clients that we saw in tracking that they were ranking. They were getting a good amount of traffic, but they were complaining that they weren't getting as many calls as they think that they should be getting at the point in time in their campaign. So then we would have him, we would kind of deploy this person on those sites and look at what could be done differently. So our newsletter is called The Trusted Law Firm, and we're all about like building trust with Google and with visitors. That's how, that's our formula for results for these clients. So we had them first looking at like, are we building trust at the top of the site? We put heat map on the site and see that, of course, most people don't scroll, what people are clicking on, what people are having a hard time with. But in the area that most people see, do we have like trust elements? Do we have, case studies or settlements that they've won, awards that they've won, or anything that shows like associations that they belong to, any badges or anything up top that's like shows trust and that, would give the people a good reason to contact this person or over someone else. And usually like certain elements of those trust things are missing. And then outside of conversion rate optimization, if they have like a review getting process, and so that we can get them ranked in maps, which is like the fastest and most reliable way of getting these people leads. So it's conversion rate optimization and a trust, making sure that all these trust elements are in place.
Right. I assume you're using data to understand whether we're being successful here, where it's like, hey, we're converting at 3% and now we're converting at 6%. Yeah. Like exactly. So you basically set up Google Analytics, the goals and events for phone calls and form submissions, maybe chat widget.
Yeah. One big upgrade that we've made is this other person on the site that's he's technically a developer, like by training he's a developer. So he's developing this tracking portal for our own clients, and it pulls in from CallRail, from the form submissions, and it puts them all into one place. And it's in beta, it's being developed now. But looking at this particular dashboard and analytics, we can see the number of visitors, we can see the number of actual leads like that they would want, that are qualified market opportunities. So yeah, we look to see, based on traffic and conversion rate, if we can improve getting more of those qualified leads to contact the attorney.
Yeah. What were some of the like top 2 or 3 things that this guy recommended that really moved the dial for you guys that somebody else could potentially start to implement into their sites and maybe increase their conversions?
Reviews is number 1.
Showing the reviews on the site.
Showing the reviews, but also getting reviews on a regular basis. And so from a conversion rate point of view, from the site itself, showing those prominently in places that people can see. Ease of use is another thing. It's like, meaning like if people are clicking on the same menu button up top and getting frustrated and leaving, like he recommended that we consolidate the menus and leading more to a conversion and nothing that's like distracting from that. Also, he's big on readability and like just the visual aspect of it, because sometimes our text was like either way too small or smushed together, or the colors weren't right, like where most people, maybe like half people could read it just fine if they had perfect vision, but then anybody that, you know, was a little bit older maybe or didn't have the right vision was like, it was kind of blurry or just wasn't
Right.
as readable as it could be. So he's big on readability. But from our perspective, it's all about trust and showing that this is the best firm for your particular situation. So showing like if you can get video testimonials, those are huge. But if you can show that like this before picture is kind of like what this visitor is like, you know, can relate to and looking for, and then they want this after picture, and you can show that in a testimonial or case study, I think those go, I mean, that's just everything.
Yeah. I see this in Florida a lot. There's this like stretch of highway where these attorneys have decided to take over that highway. They're this one attorney. And it's like, this person received this settlement. And then like a mile down the road, Tom got, you know, $250,000. And it's just like person after person. It seems like they're really focused on, here's the outcome. That's their whole marketing on the billboards. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some things that we don't do yet, but in my vision is that like kind of the Alex Hormozy value equation, which is, you know, dream outcome plus perceived likelihood of achievement. So meaning like your outcome for these people is like $1 million or a big settlement number or bigger than they would have gotten without an attorney. Perceived likelihood of achievement is like, I've done this for people just like you. I handle these types of cases all the time. Like you're showing testimonials and the perceived likelihood of achievement goes up, and then over time and cost. So meaning like you can get it faster with us than somebody else. And again, we don't implement all these things, but in my mind, this is like, I'm trying to get a bigger top line and a lower bottom line. I'm trying to get a bigger outcome and bigger perceived likelihood of achievement with a lower time and cost.
Yeah.
Or effort.
I think if for any listeners that aren't out there, maybe you haven't had the opportunity to go through Alex Hormozy's stuff. Highly recommend it. $100 million offers, $100 million leads. And specifically, you just Google the value equation. We think about this internally all the time with all the offers we have is we're kind of running it through that. And the example he gave in that book I think it was in that book was really good. Whereas like, if you have anxiety, then like you could do meditation and yoga, and that's going to take like more effort. And there's a pretty good chance it's going to help. But then there's also like pills that people take, and that'll guarantee it. And there's like no effort. And then those pills are like $1 billion industry. There's no effort and it's guaranteed. Right. So amazing thing to keep in your head as you're building out your offers and you're kind of considering your positioning, and like, it gives you the ability to view how other people are viewing your offer. Like, where are the problems in it? How can I improve these? So I want to change topics a little bit here. This has been fantastic.
So can I just add one more thing, please? So with our own marketing and for attracting clients, not only has Alex Hormozy been great in that value equation specifically, because I don't listen to him all the time, but that value equation just has stuck in my head. And decreasing the bottom line is what major corporations do, like Amazon being like one click, like making it super easy, is where the big companies focus. So for us and for like an SEO agency, nobody wants to wait a year to see if it's going to work. Like if you're selling organic SEO, and we were only really positioned as organic SEO, nobody wants that because it's going to take forever and the risk is too high.
Right.
So we had to pivot to say like, we're gonna get you fast results. Well, number one, through maps, and number two, through like low hanging fruit keywords, so you can see it's going to work. So the speed in this equation for us and for our marketing agency is absolutely everything. Like speed to the result, even if it's a small result, something that you can promise that you can show that you're going to do what you said you're going to do is absolutely everything. The second thing that I'll say is Todd Brown's stuff on unique mechanism has really shaped the way that we position ourselves in the market as different. A unique mechanism is just like a secret sauce. Like, yes, you're an SEO agency, you do search marketing, you get people rankings and leads, but there are 100 other agencies that can do the same thing as you, if that's the way you're positioning it. But when I started to study like a unique mechanism, and I always thought that, it'd be impossible to find this unique mechanism. It's like, so, I just wasn't grasping it until I went through one of his courses. And he makes it very easy to understand that even though you may not think you have a unique mechanism, you do. And you can, like, you do certain things in a certain order, for example, and why you do those things in that order, and why do you not do things, or why do you omit certain things? So all of that can be your like secret sauce for getting results and could set you apart. So I would just urge people to, if you want to, number one is standing out. Being different is better than being better. So just being different in marketing and kind of cutting through the noise and making a market of one through things like a unique mechanism has been super successful for us. It raises eyebrows, it gets people's interest. You can tell, like, if you're talking about SEO, they're kind of glazed over and you're one of a dozen. But if you start talking about something that's like they've never heard before, that legitimately is the way that you get results uniquely, it's a way to set yourself apart.
Are you able to share a little bit of the unique mechanism for Apricotlaw?
Yeah, 100%. So we have something called that we've developed called layered momentum technology. And so it's 5 steps. We start with Google and Google business profile and all the other profiles around. And we do this for a certain reason, because that's the fastest result. Then we go to the website, meaning like making sure that the conversion rate optimization is where it needs to be, making sure that there's no errors, and setting up the website properly. So that we layer, then it's content, then it's links, and then it's we call Pulse, which is like where we distribute content out and repurpose content to magnify the reach. But it's a layered process of building trust with Google and with visitors. We've kind of developed over the years, and we've put a name to it, and we've just made it kind of like a simple process that could be ours, that nobody else really has. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like it's your signature system, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Do you guys have paid ads as a part of your offering?
We do. We have a partner that we partner with on it, and then we don't do it in house. We have this other company that does it, but we're pretty close strategic partner of ours, and they vice versa. They give us their SEO business.
In the law space, what percentage of your clients are running paid ads as a part of what you guys provide to them?
I would say about 50%. The really successful ones, the guys that have the budget, they're doing everything, and they're doing paid ads for sure. The problem with paid ads is that they're just so expensive in the space. So you have to have the budget, especially for the first year, until you figure out a system that's like generating, leads at a certain ROI and cost.
It's definitely an investment. And it's also, once you kind of crack the code in a niche, bringing it for a second client is a lot easier, right? It's like, okay, now we know this is what's working. This is one of the benefits to niching down. I've seen a lot of people that have been in the space for years and years just kind of like struggle to really pick up momentum, because it's like, I've got to learn this, and then I go into a different niche and this is completely different now. Like, what's working here doesn't work here necessarily. We know that Google Maps will work in both niches, but it's like the strategies, what content do we need? And, like, it's a little bit different. What are the types of leads that they actually want? We have to understand that, I know we're in concrete, and when we started in concrete, I built out a concrete repair site, and it brings in, to this day, it brings in tons and tons of leads and remains unsold because people don't want repair. They want replacement. Brings in like, hey, there's a crack in my sidewalk. And it's just been really hard to sell that. And I didn't know that when I started the niche. And you can make a lot of these mistakes if you're not niche down. We've hit on marketing a bit. I'd love to hear some of the top strategies that has helped you guys grow and acquire clients. Like what has brought people to you, and what source has been the best for you guys?
So this has been a long journey to come to where we are now in terms of marketing. I'm going to go through a couple of the channels that we've tried because I think it's important to give like context. So we've tried LinkedIn, like direct message, marketing where we're, trying to get appointments that way. So outreach on LinkedIn. We've tried cold email outreach. And then most recently, before what we're doing now, we were doing Facebook and Instagram ads. We wrote a book. And so we would call it SEO for law firms. And we would have people download the book and then get into a funnel that way. And then, book a call. It's kind of like a book a call funnel. That saw a few results, but nothing great. Like over a year, we decided to turn it off, and we decided to go everything inbound, meaning our own SEO, like practice what we preach. We're not doing PPC at the moment. We're focused everything on content at the moment, meaning content for rankings, and also our newsletter our newsletter has been great. It's been probably the best thing that we've done. And we're using an agency. We could maybe share it if people want to know which agencies we use and stuff like that, but we're using an agency to do our newsletter, and we're using another person that they work closely together pretty often to add names to our list. They send people a few of our newsletter. They make sure that they engage with it. And if they're engaged, they add those engaged people to our list. So we're growing our list by about 1,000 people a month. And then we're emailing them a newsletter called The Trusted Law Firm twice a week. Twice a week. The process for the newsletter, which has been awesome with this agency that does a really good job growing newsletters, is they ask us questions. They have a list of topics or questions. We produce like a 3 to 5 minute video answering the question, and then they turn around and make a newsletter out of it. And they also create a LinkedIn post, and now they're starting to do like tweets around that same newsletter. We just got started with the LinkedIn, like posting to our personal profiles, but from what I understand from a agency kind of coach that I've been following, and I'm in their kind of group, although we've hired them in the past, but we're not hiring them at the moment. But they said that LinkedIn, like organic LinkedIn and posting to their own profile, has just exploded for other agency owners. And I would assume it's going to do the same thing for B2B. So really excited about that too. So right now what's working for us the best is this newsletter and just producing a good amount of content where we're posting somewhere every single day. We're posting to YouTube twice a day. We're posting now to LinkedIn twice a week. We're posting to LinkedIn twice a week. And we have this newsletter as like the seed or the source of this content that goes out twice a week as well.
Yeah. So this is great. It sounds like you guys have a pretty dialed in workflow where this company sends you this stuff, you get the video, they create the content, and then you repurpose the content to these different channels to try to create more inbound.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It turns out that this is a really valuable service, not just for us, for our clients too, meaning like the repurposing of their content. And it's something that's going to set us apart. And it's like the top of the layered momentum technology is like using their content to create, a dozen or 24 pieces per piece, and just kind of giving them a bunch of stuff that they can post everywhere.
This is great. I love the strategy. The guests we've had on so far, I haven't heard of people have like focusing on newsletters, and it's cool. There's so many different ways that we can attract clients in, and what may work better on LinkedIn for, maybe it's true that more attorneys are on LinkedIn than concrete contractors, right?
Right.
So like what's going to work in one niche may not work as well in other niches. Maybe more attorneys are going to respond to a newsletter than concrete contractors that don't necessarily spend a lot of their time on a computer. That's fantastic advice.
So Patrick, the other thing is, we've done in the past, and we're going to get back to it now that we have this content, is we would physically mail a newsletter to a couple hundred people, not everybody on the list, but people that we know fit the ideal client profile. And it's a cost. And I had a person like literally stuffing, like it looked like a Dan Kennedy newsletter. It was all like clear plastic. So we'd have, literally putting stamps on it because it wasn't enough to send through like a big bulk mailer. And that got us clients too. So I think just like getting outside of where everybody else is also is big. So that physical newsletter, even though there was a cost, that helped as well. So I think it takes experimentation, dude. Like I would love to tell you, like, you don't have to go through this, like, cost of figuring it out, but you got to figure it out, right? We've had salespeople making cold calls in the past. We've tried all different things, and it's just, you eventually, after spending a bunch of money and time and figuring out ways that it doesn't work, you eventually figure out things that work for you.
Starting an agency is relatively low cost, right? You think about some of these other businesses. If you're going to start, imagine you start a pool building, you're building swimming pools. You got to get licenses, and there's all kinds of expensive equipment, or a tree service company, right? There's all sorts of investment people have to make off the bat, right? If you're an attorney, you're going to school for, 4 extra years. You're in school, you have continuing education. There's all these costs that are associated with it. And because agencies often attract people, hey, it's a business that's easier to start, that you can work from home. There's kind of this hesitation around things like this, where you do have to still invest and figure out the ways that are going to drive your business forward. Once you start that business, you're no longer just a technician of somebody who does SEO or marketing. You're a business owner now. And a part of that is you have to have people raising their hand for your business, or your business will not grow. You can't scale without predictable revenue. So figuring this out is critical. It's just a cost of doing business. You've got to go through the paces. And where it gets really effective is when you start to stack up a few of these different pipelines, right? Where it's like, okay, we've got the newsletter, and we've got the letters that are going out there, and we're posting on LinkedIn, right? And YouTube videos. And when people can find you from a lot of different ways, then like, that's where the magic happens, right?
Agreed.
So Nick, I know you have a tremendous amount of knowledge and skills around the financial parts of things. What would be a foundation in, like, perhaps looking at other agencies, or maybe, I don't know if you made, like, with the financial background you have, I don't know if you made these mistakes when you were starting, but what would be those foundational things to put in place from a financial perspective? And if there's kind of like rules and guidelines around the way we should manage our finances in our agency, could you share some of that with us?
Yeah, I would love to. This is my passion. It's my wheelhouse. Number one is, and what I've learned through open book management, is that we have to start looking forward and not just backwards. So meaning, at the end of the month, typically you'll look at your numbers and you'll say, like, it was a good month or a bad month, and this is our profit at the end. And you're kind of like, you're looking backwards. You're reporting back on what has already happened. And we need to start looking forward with our finances. And the way to do that is with something called forward forecasting. So the way we do it, and without visuals here, so I'm going to make it as simple as possible, is we need to build a financial scoreboard that's as simple as possible, that shows all of the relevant numbers from the P&L, of course, and a few key metrics from the balance sheet. So once we have this scoreboard, and it's like a simplified P&L and a few numbers from the balance sheet, we set up, for each of these line items, we have owners of each of these line items. But if you're not going to open the books to everybody, I totally get it. You should still do this. You're just now the owner of each of these lines. Every single week in our huddle, we go down the list on this scoreboard and we forward forecast what each number is going to look like when the month is over. So every single week from the beginning of the month, like let's say the first week in October, we don't have a lot of data coming through. So it's a lot of assumption, but we're saying, what's revenue going to be this month? And the line item owner of revenue says, I think we're going to do 120,000. And then we're like, okay, what's the story behind that? If there is any, and they say, well, we lost this one client, but I think we're going to sign this other deal. I'm pretty certain it's going to sign. So revenue is going to be this. And we go item by item. We go down the cogs. We say, okay, what's our cost of content for these clients? What's our cost of, people that are directly related to each of these clients? So the variable cogs.
COGS, right? Just for those people out there that maybe that's first cost of goods sold. So it's basically the cost of us to deliver to our clients, right?
Yep. And I'm going to do one better is kind of run down our actual scoreboard here. So the top line is revenue. Then for COGS, we have content, offsite optimization, client tools and software, things like that are variable, like we're only paying for it if we add a client to these things like CallRail. Then we have developers. So these are people working specifically on these client sites. Like if we don't have this development work, we're not paying this expense. So it's variable. Paid traffic for clients, if we're doing any of the like our fees for doing any paid traffic work. Our people investment is in the COGS because it's variable. Some people put it down below. It's really up to you. Then if you go down to expenses, we have corporate costs, things like rent, phone, maintenance. We have interest expense because we have a loan out from when we bought out my partner. We have sales and marketing for our own company, software and hosting. That's not really variable. It's just tools that we use like Zoom, etc. There's a bunch of those, and training and education. So then we go down the list every single week. We say, what is this line going to be for the month when it's over? And so we're looking forward so that if we have a change in one of these lines, let's say revenue drops unexpectedly one week and our revenue owner says it's going to be 110 because we're losing this client. We're not going to get this payment this month. Then the people below, we can discuss it and we could say, at the end of this, well, how are we going to still meet our net cash critical number since revenue dropped 10,000? What are we going to do here? I know it's scary because, the number one thing people think is like, our payroll is the biggest expense here. They see it. So are we going to be cut? What's going to happen here? So it really binds the team together to focus on other ways to move the numbers so that we're still hitting our critical number. So like one person might say, well, like, you know what, let's hold off on this $5,000 marketing investment until next month. Or until like we sign this other client. So it's just looking forward before the month ends allows you to make decisions and to do things that can impact your scoreboard so that you're not looking backwards and saying like, oh shit, we lost 5,000.
Yeah. You don't get blindsided, which is like, this is how businesses end, right? Is they didn't plan, something happens, they have no reserves, and then they're like, okay, we're caught off guard, completely blindsided, right?
Bingo.
Yeah. Nick, this was amazing. Such great advice in here. I'd love to potentially have you back. Maybe we could dive deeper at some point into the finances. Thank you so much for coming here and being a part of this. Do you have any final words to share?
Enjoy the process, man. Figure it out. Enjoy the process. Don't always look at the outcomes.
Yeah. Is there a way, social media out there that if somebody wanted to reach out to you and connect with you, maybe there's attorneys listening to you or something like this, what would be the best way for somebody to reach Nick?
You could email me, Nick at obcfo.com. It's the new site that we're putting up for Open Book CFO, the new company. Or you can find Apricotlaw on YouTube or on any of the socials, or find me, Nick Kringas on LinkedIn.
Excellent, Nick. Nick, appreciate you. Thanks so much for being here, for being a guest on the $1 Million Agency podcast. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.